Welcome back to Outside the Beltway. I'm John Frederickson. Thanks for being with us today. Joining me now, Suzy Voyles. Suzy is a former election official in Fulton County in Atlanta, Georgia. She has over 2 decades of experience. When I was in Atlanta years ago, Suzy Voyles, everybody considered her one of the foremost experts on election law in the state of Georgia, let alone Atlanta and Fulton County. Suzy Voyles with us now is also one of the original 4 election officials in Fulton County who have signed affidavits alleging that there may be up to 20 or 30,000 counterfeit fake ballots in Fulton County. Joining us now is Suzy Voyles. Hey, Suzy, it took a lot of courage to come on today. Thank you for being with us. We're going to have her in a minute here. We got her? Okay, we got Suzy now. Hey, Suzy, a little tech intro, re-intro here. It took a lot of courage for you to come forward today as one of the 4 original people signing these affidavits. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for your courage. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. But really, all I was doing was fulfilling my job. We take an oath to make sure that during the election, we will do whatever we can to prevent any fraud, deceit, or abuse. And not only during the election, but it says the continuance thereof. And that's where we are right now, and that's where we were when we did the audit. So,
all right, Suzy, let's get this.
Fulfilling my oath.
All right, Suzy, let's get to some of the specifics here. Okay, one of the things that you said in your affidavit, and I'm going to go through these one by one, is you said in your ballot sorting and counting that you thought that there were ballots that you were handling. These are mail-in ballots, Fulton County mail-in ballots, that you said was on pristine paper. They were on a different type of paper. Can you elaborate on that?
There was a definite difference in the feel of the paper. They were, when I said pristine, they were very white. This was a batch of 110 ballots. They obviously had not been handled. They weren't soiled at all by, oil on the hands or stray marks here and there. And so there were no folds that should have been there. And it was impossible for them to have been adjudicated ballots. And we can talk about that in a little bit.
So they were on different paper. The paper was, as you called it in your affidavit, pristine, didn't appear to be handled. Now let's go to the creases. Any absentee or any mail-in ballot, whether it was delivered through a drop box, delivered straight to a early voting place, or came through the mail, that had to be received by the voter through the mail in an envelope, and then it had to be returned either by hand or mail, or a drop box with an envelope where the person signs the back of it. So we're not talking about signature match here. We're talking about ballots that have to come and go and be deposited in an envelope without a crease, without a fold crease. Can I ask you something, Suzy? How is that humanly possible? Are these just magic ballots that fly in and out of an envelope? Or did somebody come in and steam clean them like you would do a suit after a rainstorm? How is there no creases in these?
I have really no idea. The only way that could happen, there was a woman that I met also who filled out an affidavit, and her story, I didn't know her until weeks afterwards, but her story perfectly corroborated what I had seen, that these were ballots that she had printed as test ballots. And there was something else that was very unusual about them. Not only, the first thing that drew my eye was there was a little eclipse in the first bubble in the presidential mark. But out of 110 ballots in this batch, the other thing, besides the feel, besides the no creases, was the fact that every office on the front and the back were exactly the same. Now, John, I've been doing this for over 2 decades. I have never seen odds like that. That meant 107 were for Joseph Biden, 2 were for Donald Trump, and 1 was for Jorgensen. That's just a statistical impossibility. And then when I found out that Bridget had printed what were supposed to be test ballots, that's what she thought they were, was test ballots, but somehow those test ballots were interspersed within other ballots.
So out of a batch of 110 ballots, did you say it was 110 or 101?
110.
And Biden got 107 votes.
Correct.
Trump got 2 votes. Jorgensen, the Libertarian, got 1 vote. But
Yes,
did
sir.
I also hear, Suzy, you say that all of the down ballots were exactly the same candidates?
Correct. Even the referendums, even the soil and conservation person, that is so unusual. In fact, that was the other thing that drew me. Besides the feel of the paper, the no folds, this was something that was not, I was assuming they had been copied. It was very obvious they had been copied. There were other questionable ballots, but these, it was impossible to have ballots in that order.
So one batch, 110 ballots, 107 for Biden, 2 for Trump, 1 for the Libertarian Jorgensen, and then all the down ballot candidates voted, and they voted the exact same way, Ossoff, whoever the congressman is, right down to soil and water and referendum. The statistical odds on that, based on your 2 decades plus of experience, you would say are what? Slim, infinitesimal, not likely. How would you frame that based on your experience? Suzy.
Based on my experience, I would say that's an impossibility. If you remember, if I've done this over 2 decades, I've also done this when the state voted majority Democrat. I have never seen a spread like this before. I have seen, the spread is much closer. This was impossible.
Impossible, indeed. Suzy, also you said that in looking at the bubble fill-in marks of Biden, that the 107 votes for Biden, you were saying that all the bubble marks appeared to be the same way, the same exact bubble mark, the same way, and it didn't appear to be made by an ink pen or a pencil. Can you explain that?
I can explain it. They were printed as they would come through a copy machine, and the bubble, the one would bubble in, or that the machine would bubble in for Joseph R. Biden. There was a slight little eclipse of white inside that bubble, and that's the best way it looked like a little, quarter moon is the only way I can describe it. And each one of those were identical on every one of those 107 ballots.
So, Suzy, of the ballots that you saw, the 107 votes for Biden, every single bubble mark was the exact same, with the same little sliver missing. The odds on that, it's just impossible. It's a human impossibility that would happen. It just could never happen. So, different paper, not folded, 107 of 110 votes for Biden, all the down ballot votes the exact same, no pen, no ink, same bubble mark eclipse. What do you think this audit is going to show, Suzy, based on your experience?
Well, the first two audits that we did were not what I would call an actual. If you tell me your bank has been robbed and of $10, and so I go through and I count the money, and then you give me the same amount of money, I'm going on your count on what you tell me was missing. And it was really a recount of what had already been done. I think we're going to find out that there was something that I have seen for my 20 years here, and I have told all 5 secretaries of state that there is a problem with the absentee ballot. And there are greater problems than that. There were also problems with registration, and that's a story for another time. But I think we're going to find.
Do you believe these ballots that you looked at? Do you believe these ballots were counterfeit?
I absolutely do.
All right, Suzy, do me a favor. I know time is short. I want to hold you over for just a couple minutes for our next segment, because I've also seen today that you've announced for Congress in the 6th District. I want to talk about that. I want to get back to these ballots. We'll have David Belisle after that. If you could beg our indulgence, Suzy, and stay with us for another segment. We're going to be right back with Suzy Voyles. You're on Outside the Beltway. Breaking news. Stay with us. You're back on Outside the Beltway. We're with Suzy Voyles, 20 plus years, election official in Fulton County, in Atlanta. She's done an affidavit. Breaking news here. Suzy's belief is that there are ballots in this audit in Fulton County that she believes were counterfeit and fraudulent ballots just printed off a machine. Suzy, we went through your inspection of these ballots before they pulled you off it. No creases, paper that didn't match that was pristine, no oil marks on it, no fold marks, all the bubble marks the exact same, and improbability of, out of 110 ballots you inspected, 107 went for Biden, 2 for Trump, 1 for Jorgensen, all the down ballots the same, and you don't know how they got in an envelope. So my question is to you, is there any explanation for how these ballots that you inspected, this 110, could have been authentic? Is there any way they could be real?
No, there is no way. They would not have been duplicated ballots, because if they had been, and by that I mean adjudicated, they could not have, if there was something wrong with the original ballot, because people just don't all stand in line and vote precisely the same. There was only one other election that we had this in, and that was when Talmadge was elected to governor, and that was called the 3 governors controversy, and we know what a mess that was.
Unbelievable. All right, Suzy, also breaking news, we understand that you have decided to run for Congress in Georgia's 6th District. That is right now represented by Democrat Lucy McBath. Lucy McBath. I'm so excited that you've decided to do this. We need people to step up. Tell me quickly about your race.
Yes, somebody needed to step up. I believe it was a woman who needed to step up, and I'm not a feminist by any means, but we have got to stop the type of votes that she is passing that are hurting our American workers, that is hurting our very basic election integrity that we're talking about here today. And I know that your next guest is going to talk about, we have got to get back to founding American principles, and we need to take back our Congress. And I'm stepping up to do my part right here in our little plot of land in the 6th District.
Hey, Suzy, if people want info on your campaign, do you have a website? Do you have anywhere they can go?
We do, and the website will be launched next week, but it's going to be Suzy, Suzi, the number 4, and the word Georgia.
All right, Suzy, Suzi4, Georgia.com. Suzy, thanks for being with us, and thanks for your courage for coming on and stepping forward and doing your duty. Thank you. Suzy, thank you so much for that. And